Hi everyone, welcome to the Bourbon Obsessed New Bourbon Releases News Podcast, your commercial-free, and therefore money-free, bourbon podcast for Monday, October 20th. I am Ed, and this week I'm joined by my usual co-host, friend, and bourbon aficionado, Dean Langdon. Dean, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, Ed. Thank you for asking. It's glad to be here on a lovely Friday morning, an unusual time for us, but this is when we were able to do it this week, so looking forward to educating folks about all the new bourbon that's coming out, because it continues to roll on, doesn't it?
Yeah, this Friday morning recording time is tough for some reason.
I don't know. It's just our whole body clocks are off. Our mental capacities are either enhanced or I'm not sure what the opposite of that is, deteriorating, but it's one or the other.
I think it's that one.
Yeah.
Not enough bourbon in our systems, but
apparently not.
We'll do what we can.
Hangover from last night.
So have you done anything interesting since we last met?
I think when we last met, I had already been to the Pogue Distillery. We had talked about that, and that was really it. Nothing else. It's been, unfortunately, a work of week, or a week of work, one of those kinds of weeks. So glad to be doing this and taking a little bit of break from the drudgery.
Yeah. Well, me too, except I didn't really have that much drudgery. I did some good things.
You've been to a bunch of stuff this week. I
went to the Maker's Mark Cellar Aged tour. So they do that tour every year when they release the Cellar Aged. Mm-hmm. And this year, it was a more complicated blend. We talked about it. I can't remember exactly. I think it's between 10, 12, and 13 year bourbons. They skipped the 11.
They're getting up into the 12, 13-year-old.
But it was great. I mean, those tours are always fun, and we had a fantastic flight. I mean, we got to taste all three of the cellar-aged expressions, and then we got to compare them to an actual 12-year-old Makers that was not aged in the cellar. So you got to see the actual effects if they were left in the rickhouse for all that time. And just to refresh everybody's memory. So the cellar aged ages like normal Makers until it's mature. So, it's mature to taste, not age, as they say. So 6 to 8 years. And then at that point, it's moved into the cellar, which is a much cooler environment. I think 50 degrees or something like that. And that's where it continues to age. And they did that because they didn't want to change the natural Maker's character, which would happen if they left it in the rickhouse. It would get, the older bourbon flavors, a little more tannins and things like that. A flavor not meant for Makers.
Not a Maker's taste.
Right.
No.
And nothing bad with it. I mean, the older bourbons are great, but it's not the Maker's flavor profile. So they put it in the cellar, and then it ages, and it doesn't gain those characteristics. And we really got to see that in play by comparing.
How was the 12-year-old that wasn't cellar aged?
It's
oakier and
and a little more tannic. It was certainly good, but it totally didn't taste like Makers. I mean, it lost all those Makers characteristics. So they were definitely right about that. And it's interesting how they came up with a way to age their whiskey longer while maintaining their flavor profile. And it's actually pretty clever.
It is. It really is. Yeah, that's science at work, and it's somebody really thinking through that. So I think that's really neat.
Yeah. So that was very cool. And then on last night, I went to the Heaven Hill Connoisseur Circle. Mm-hmm. It had an event, which was very nice. It was at the Heaven Hill Bourbon Experience, and I did join. For people that are not familiar with it, it's Heaven Hill's. A number of the distilleries have developed clubs, which I think we've talked about, and Heaven Hills is on the more pricey side, but I've been a Heaven Hill fan, so I joined it for this first year, and this was a very nice event last night. It had music, food, it had some good pours. I actually had pours of the new Chinkapin grain to glass there. Had a 16-year William Heaven Hill.
Ooh, great. So what did in your opinion, what did the Chinkapin oak aging impart? What kind of different flavors were you able to pick up from?
Well, I'm going to have to taste them again when I review them, because when you're tasting it and you're talking to people, it's not the same. Agree. But my first impression is it seemed to add a lot more of a spicy character to the wheated bourbon, which the grain to glass wheated is not particularly spicy. I think of it having more of like the butterscotchy type flavors. So that was a bit of a surprise. And then it mellowed out the rye. So
Wow.
it sort of had the opposite effect. I'm going to have to taste it again. I mean, this
Right.
was just
Well,
when I'm
we'll
talking to people and
Yeah.
and thinking about it. But yeah, a bit of a surprise. But yeah,
That's
they were
neat.
both
Yeah.
good, but
Yeah.
a different effect than I would have actually expected.
Yeah. Well, look forward to the reviews on those because,
Yeah.
and I actually look forward to tasting them with you one of these days.
Yeah,
So
well,
we'll get around to that.
We can do both of those things.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so we better dive right in. It's
Yep.
Even though we're well into October now, the releases are still coming strong.
Yep. There's a lot of bourbon out there, folks.
19 of them today. So we'll start with Smokeye Hill Barrel Proof Straight Rye Whiskey. It's a bold new release and the brand's first rye whiskey expression. Distilled in Lawrenceburg, Indiana, and aged for 5 years in char 2, 3, and 4 30-gallon American oak casks in Colorado Springs. This rye features a proprietary 4-grain mash bill, rye, heirloom blue corn, yellow corn, and malted barley. It's bottled at barrel proof, which it's not a big spread between the batches, 131.2 to 131.7, and the small batch release totals fewer than 1,400 cases. It will be available for around $89.99 or $90 in select stores across Arizona, California, Colorado, Georgia, Nevada, Washington, and Texas, as well as nationwide online through multiple providers, actually, Sealbox, Spirits Network, and Keg and Bottle. And yeah, I haven't had much from Smokeye Hill. I know it got a big thing when Fred Minnick gave bourbon.
It won an Ascot Award, I think, as best of one year. So that led me to get a bottle, and I really enjoyed the small batch I had. It was a bourbon, of course, and I'm pretty sure that they, it's MGP juice, but I'm not sure where they barrel it. I'm guessing they tank it to Colorado and barrel it there in those 30-gallon barrels, which, should accelerate things. I was really happy with the bourbon. I did think it was a good bourbon. I've got a single barrel of the bourbon I haven't tapped yet, but I'd love to get a bottle of this. I'll have to look up the online options and see if I can snag one that way.
The one you had is the one that won?
Yes, I believe it was the small batch that won. I don't remember if Fred chose the single barrel or the small batch. I hope it would be the small batch because single barrels just are hard to find, right? They are what they are. There's a limit to what you can get. So
that's a whole other topic for discussion. Whether
that's a whole other podcast,
in awards things.
But I mean, I like what Smokeye Hill has done. At least the products I've tasted. So.
Yeah, so this one's interesting. But the other thing that's interesting, I don't know if you had a chance to look into it. The part that I commented on in the newsletter, where they say it aged for whatever 5 years, and so it says exactly in the press release, our barrel proof rye spends 5 years aging to develop depth and complexity before a percentage of our flagship bourbon is blended in. So that was interesting because its label says it's a straight rye. Obviously, that would not be a straight rye if it had bourbon blended in.
Blended, right. Yeah.
So
Can't be both.
No. So I've contacted them and tried to say,
it'll be interesting to see what they say about that. I mean, I also was interested in the mash bill. I mean, having two different kinds of corn, you don't see that very often. And usually people use like a blue corn or something for its taste profile. Seems to me if you're blending different corns, you're tamping down whatever that profile is you might be trying to impart. So,
well, maybe they thought it was a bit much.
Could be, I mean, and it could be. I mean, but
or they like the combination, I guess.
Also, if they're blending one of their bourbons in, you got to factor that into the mash bill, and so, a lot of questions. It'd be interesting to find out more specifically how they're actually crafting this one.
Yeah, I was very surprised to read that they blended the bourbon in. So I don't know if that's a erroneous paragraph or comment in the press release that was meant for something else or what, but obviously it's still sounds like a very interesting whiskey, and
we'll follow up in 2 weeks if they respond to Ed. So
I mean, a lot's very interesting. The 3 different char level barrels, the 30-gallon. I mean, I'd sort of like to know why that choice was made. I mean, and then obviously the effects at aging at over 6,000 feet in Colorado Springs. I mean, there's a lot interesting about this. Certainly interested to taste it, and it's perfectly fine if it's got bourbon blended in it. It just sort of changes its
just a
category,
disclosure thing,
though.
right? Yeah.
All right, so next is, and we mentioned this briefly last week when we talked about their new master distiller. Sagamore Spirit has announced the release of their first high-rye straight bourbon whiskey, crafted with a mash bill of 60% corn, 25% rye, and 15% malted rye, which is interesting in itself. Aged for 6 years in new charred American white oak barrels and bottled at 118 proof. This release is part of the Sagamore Spirit Reserve series and celebrates the brand's combination of Maryland rye heritage and modern bourbon craftsmanship. It's available now, or sometime this month, for $49 at their distillery, and unfortunately only at select Baltimore retailers. So we don't get to try it.
Yeah, limited distribution. It's almost a high malt bourbon as opposed to a high rye. I mean, that 25% is certainly, I can see calling it high rye, but boy, that's a pretty strong malt percentage.
Well, this is 40. It's malted rye, unless I have the wrong information here.
So that's 40%
So this is
rye.
40% rye. Yeah. That's very high rye.
It really is, yeah.
So this is, interesting for so many reasons. I mean, Sagamore Spirit is a rye distillery. That's what they've made their name on. I had heard that they had made some bourbons, but that they were mainly being given as source bourbons to other brands or were contract distilled. And I did not know they were going to release a bourbon because obviously that's, not really off-brand may not be the right thing, but it sort of is. I mean, they're known as a rye distillery. Interesting to see that they still stuck to an incredibly high amount of rye in their bourbon. So they've stuck to their rye roots.
Yes.
Which I guess it says in the press release, combination of Maryland rye heritage and modern bourbon craftsmanship. So
it is an interesting,
I would love to try this.
Interesting addition for them. Great price point, right?
Yeah.
For what it is, 118 proof. I mean, that's, I'm not thinking I'm going to be in Baltimore anytime soon, or else I'd love to try and snag a bottle of it.
I know.
So they didn't really say how much of it there was, if I recall. So,
well, I mean, we can only hope that it's like a trial thing, and if it goes over well there, it'll be a nationwide distribution.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not going to be anywhere near there anytime soon.
But I wonder how much of it they've got laid back, that's aging, because obviously it's got to get to the right time.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, it's a neat product. I'm glad to see them branch out a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's very neat. So everybody in Baltimore, take advantage of that opportunity because some of us are jealous.
Yeah, that's us.
All right. The Ingram Distillery has announced its 2025 flagship bourbon, the 5th edition in their annual release series showcasing their unique river aging process. This year's release is a micro batch blended from just 8 high-rye bourbon barrels with a mash bill of, this is up there too, 36% rye, 60% corn, and 4% malted barley. Bottled at 116.5 proof, this ultra-limited bourbon follows the recent release of their Uncharted Wheated Bourbon, which we talked about, the brand's first wheated bourbon, and their expanded distribution into Alaska and Texas, which we talked about. Ingram's been in our
they've been around
podcast,
yes, they have.
I think, every week lately.
So.
The suggested retail price is around $80, and it's available in Alaska, Georgia, Kentucky, Louisiana, Minnesota, Tennessee, Texas, and Wisconsin, as well as online via Sealbox. So most of the rest of the country should be able to get it.
Yep. I mean, it's interesting to see, distillers put out a flagship product, no pun intended, that, this is what they're going to try and grow customer bases with, impress the experts with and that kind of stuff. So I'm glad to see Ingram doing that. They've done it. Obviously, this is, I think, the 5th year they've done it. But I'm looking forward to finding that and giving it a taste and seeing how it's working for them. They're unique in the fact that their barrels are aging on a barge in the Mississippi River.
Yep.
So it's nobody else is doing that, and I do think it undoubtedly affects the process of that bourbon going in and out of the wood.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost akin to what we were talking about with makers earlier, and I would love to taste their land aged, which they have to have, versus barrel versus the river aged, to see what the difference is. Yeah, these have always been good, and the thing about these releases is they're always very different. So they're not just picking their best barrels of their regular flavor profile. They've always go for something a little more unique when they make these.
Yeah.
And the price is interesting too, because as I recall, when these first came out, five years ago, weren't they 100 or over 100, and they were sort of expensive for their time, I think.
I don't remember, but that wouldn't surprise me.
Now they're 80, which is pretty good for a limited.
It is. I mean,
release.
8 barrels is not a big big quantity. That's going to be what, say 1,600 bottles at most, and probably less than that, depending on the age of the barrel. So
maybe around 1,600.
Yeah.
So actually, we have a sample of that upstairs.
Awesome. Look for a review eventually.
All right, next is Old Commonwealth returns with D.H. Cromwell Batch 2, a 15-year Kentucky straight bourbon finished for 10 months in new charred oak barrels from Kelvin Cooperage, twice as long as their Batch 1. Using the same mash bill as the prior, 75% corn, 13% rye, 12% malted barley, this release amplifies the red fruit and creamy depth that defined its predecessor while preserving balance and avoiding being over-oaked, according to the brand. It's bottled at 105.5 proof and priced at $299, and it arrives October 23rd, alongside the forthcoming next release of their Kentucky Nectar Founders Pick 3, and that's their honey barrel finished. And you can get more details about that, and you can sign up to be a Old Commonwealth insider on their website, and that's pretty much the only way to get the older things. They sell out within minutes.
I got that impression that it was sort of by subscription only type of thing, which is okay. I mean, there aren't that many 15-year-old Kentucky bourbons around, but I think we'll hopefully be seeing more as time passes. So
yeah,
I'm really not familiar with Cromwell, so I'd love to see. I'm sure somebody will eventually review them and give us some insights into what they've got. But
I think there's some reviews out there. I mean, the thing is, other than the Kentucky Nectar, which you can see around to some degree, I mean, all of these older ones have sold out immediately online. I mean, you can find them places. I tried one of theirs at half price
at Evergreen.
Yeah. And I tried the Kentucky Nectar there too. I think it was the first, or it might have been another pick. But yeah, you don't really see them around. So
right. And what they doubled the finishing time, and so the obvious thing is, okay, can I do a vertical of the last batch and this batch and see what the differences are? That's going to be difficult to do because there's such limited releases.
You can do a vertical if you can get his bottles. I mean, I don't own any of their things.
Right. Yeah. So
anyway, should be good. 15
Yep.
year. All right. Next is McBrayer Legacy Spirits revives one of Kentucky's historic bourbon names with the release of Old McBrayer 8-year-old bottled in bond. Aged 8 years and bottled at 100 proof, as it would have to be, this expression honors the 19th century distillery founded by Captain J.H. McBrayer and later led by W.H. McBrayer. The label bears the revived trademark, a favorite of Old Kentucky, a phrase that appeared in Old McBrayer's advertising from the 1940s and 50s, brought back to celebrate the brand's heritage and future. Crafted from a mash bill of 70% corn, 18% rye, and 12% malted barley, the batch is limited to 2,600 bottles. Their Legacy Club members receive exclusive purchase access beginning tomorrow. The day
before this podcast.
2 days before this podcast, but the day after the newsletter went out. So always subscribe to the newsletter.
There you go. Right.
It tells you of upcoming things. So it comes out Saturday, October 18th. And it says, interestingly, the email that came 2 days ago said 7 a.m., but the one that came yesterday said 7 p.m. I believe it's going to be 7 a.m.
Right.
when it releases online. And for additional information and to join the Legacy Club, you can go to the McBrayer Legacy Spirits website as well, and they'll send you an email with a code to buy it.
Yeah. That's interesting. It's 8 years is a nice age statement for a bottled and bond. I know McBrayer's out there. They've got I think a pretty good story. I haven't really tried their bourbons enough to give them a thumbs up or thumbs down or a sideways on on the quality of their bourbon, but they seem to be doing fine because if they've got a club, and that's probably the only way to get this. That's a good sign, right?
Actually, I saw it in a store had advertised that. I'm pretty sure it was this one had advertised that they had we're going to have them.
Oh, that's great.
Which is interesting. So I think the prior bottle in bond was 5 years, maybe. So I mean, it's increasing.
Yes.
In age, and I recently tried their spirits at the Watch Hill Proper Festival, which was in August, and it's a festival, so I can't say anything detailed, but I liked what I tried.
Yeah,
is about
right.
What all you can ever say from a festival.
I know.
I have to sit down with things for the hours that I sit down with them if I do a review to really give all the details. But festivals are like, don't like, and
that's right. Yeah,
this was in the like category.
Didn't pour it out, right?
No. So I'd be interested to try that.
Yeah.
All right. Next is Pursuit Spirits has unveiled Pursuit United Kodama Mizunara Bourbon, a limited edition blend of 2 lots of whiskey built on the brand's signature triple mash bourbon base. Each lot was finished differently, one with rare Japanese Mizunara oak, known for its exotic spice and dry woody character, and the other with infrared toasted American oak, which imparts rich vanilla and sweetness. The resulting blend combines these 2 distinctive influences for a bold and complex profile. It's bottled at 117 proof and priced at around $90, and it became available beginning October 11th, so very recently, exclusively at the Pursuit Spirits Whiskey Row location. So I'm sure it's still there. I mean, it just became available.
Right. So to all our Louisville listeners and watchers, run down there and grab a bottle. It didn't really say how much of it they had, but I can't imagine there's a huge amount. And again, what Ryan does so well is blending things, and he's found some different things to blend with, and I'm sure it's wonderful. It's an interesting mix of the toasted oak, and then the Mizunara. That would be an interesting melding from the toasted oak. Right. Products I've had and the Mizunara products I've had, those probably go together pretty well. So
no, I think it'll give it some more body and some more of those classic bourbon flavors that you wouldn't get in the Mizunara finish, which gives it more of the spice and type of notes to me.
Yeah.
So
sort of like a
interesting take on it,
a spicy creme brulee, right? So
I'd like to try that.
Yeah.
So next is Woodford Reserve has unveiled their 2025 holiday bottle, a limited 1 liter release of Distiller Select Bourbon, which is their regular Woodford Reserve, bears that name, bottled at 90.4 proof and priced at $52.99. This year's design features artwork by fashion designer Alexandra O'Neill, founder of the luxury brand Markarian. Shows how much I know about fashion. I know that's a surprise.
Yeah. I'm going to chime in right away about the fashion part. So anyway, yeah.
I know. Well, I'm trying to give you a good segue. Marking the first time Woodford Reserve has collaborated with a fashion designer for its annual holiday edition, and plus O'Neill was Elizabeth McCall's maiden name.
Oh, okay.
Presumably no connection, but that was an interesting happenstance.
Yeah. Yes.
The label blends vintage influences with modern sophistication, showcasing a garland stripe of winter berries and stars set against a muted sage background. A look O'Neill described as a beautifully wrapped gift, precious and celebratory. The bottle is available nationwide, online with shipment to limited states, and at the Woodford Reserve Distillery, which offers complimentary engraving with purchase. I didn't realize they did that.
I did not know that either. So that's a nice touch to have an engraved bottle. So
yeah,
and again, it's Woodford's regular juice, which is good juice, right? So I thought it was a very pretty label. I wish I had time to look up the company that Miss O'Neill founded. I didn't have a chance to do that and see what kind of fashion line is there.
You can't just open your closet.
I can, but there's no Markarian in it. So,
what about that?
Not many brand names. It tends to be. I'm trying to think what the Target brand name was that was popular a while back. That's no, we don't have much in the way of designer clothing at our residence. So we have T-shirts from all sorts of bourbon purveyors, but anyway, yeah. So yeah, it's very pretty. I'm sure it'll sell well, and if you're going to give bourbon as a gift, and somebody's not necessarily a bourbon geek, it's a nice bottle.
Yeah.
It's a great way to share the joy.
No, these are very collectible, I think. I mean, people buy them every year.
Yeah.
So, and they always have they're usually artists. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, designers are artists, just different.
Right. And apparently this is the first time they've used a fashion designer. And so, we can have the whole philosophical discussion of, is it art? And I'm going to go, yes, it is. It's, designing fashion is just, another form of art. You can go to University of Cincinnati and you can learn how to design sneakers. So if there's a college program for it, by golly, it's art. So
I hear if you design sneakers, or put the right name on sneakers, it's quite lucrative.
It can be. That's what I've heard. I don't have any of those either.
No. All right. So Chattanooga Whiskey has announced the release of Bottled in Bond Fall 2021 Vintage, which arrived at the Chattanooga Whiskey Experimental Distillery on Thursday, October 16th, which was yesterday for us and 3 days from podcast date, for around $53, and it will show up in selected states soon after. The bourbon is a blend of 4 mash bills, and we'll just leave it at that because the mash bills are in Chattanooga's codes.
Yes.
And it's all distilled and barreled between July and December 2021, so the fall season, then aged more than 4 years in toasted and charred 53-gallon oak barrels. It's bottled at 100 proof in small batches of 10 to 12 barrels. The fall 2021 vintage highlights the new SB104 recipe, which adds bright spice, subtle fruit, and baked pastry richness to the series' signature profile. They describe it as taking the other 3 mash bills and brushing them with a fruit glaze and then baking them like a cake. I'm getting hungry. Limited quantities will also be available on sealbox.com.
Somebody needs to make a bourbon Danish. I don't know why that hasn't happened yet. I like Chattanooga's.
It's hard to believe there's not a bourbon Danish.
Maybe there is, but I haven't found one.
Glaze.
So, yeah. But so that's what this sounds like, right? It's like, this bourbon, this is going to drink like a
well, they're certainly Danish, painting that picture.
They are, and they did a great job of painting that picture. Good writing. I appreciate good writing, and I appreciate good bourbon. And Chattanooga is doing that. I mean, their stuff is exemplary, I think, and I'd love to run across a bottle of this. I'll keep my eyes open for it. There's enough of it, and I think it's distributed enough so that it is possible to find this. It's not just a distillery only thing.
Yeah, and I think they even sell it in Kentucky.
I think so. Yeah,
I think I've seen it
before.
About 30
right
Chattanooga bottles behind you. I don't have this one, but I have prior years.
Since it only came out yesterday, I'm not surprised. I'm not disturbed yet. So I'll give you a week, okay?
All right. Well, maybe since we're not actually discussing anything from this brand on the podcast today, but you were recently there, which is why the bottle is here.
That's
so
right.
Why don't you?
This is an Old Pogue product. This is called Limestone Landing. It is a bourbon. I foolishly did not write down the mash bill. It is 11 years old is the age statement, but they told me it is 2 weeks shy of 12 years old. It is a bourbon. It is 110 proof. They had, the story is they had 5 barrels that they set aside and they tried them after 6 years, 7 years, weren't happy with them. Finally, they get to 11 years, almost 12 years old, and they're going, okay, now it's ready. And so this is going to be a commemorative release. It was available at the distillery this year and will be available again next year for their sesquicentennial, because Pogue was founded in 1876, so they're going to be 150 years old next year, actually, not this year. So they're a little bit ahead of it, but it's very nice. I love the aroma is great. The taste is nice. It's got a couple of layers that I'm enjoying. It is not overly hot for the 110 proof, and it's called Limestone Landing. So, you're not going to find it in a store. You may only be able to get it on Pogue release days, which are in August, and you have to sign up, or not in August, in October, and you have to sign up for those. It might be available at the distillery. I do not know.
So it's been ages since I've been up there. What kind of still do they have?
It's a pot still up there. So this
that explains it. So they distilled this.
Yeah.
And so it's 11-year-old pot still. Mm-hmm. Well, it definitely has that pot still character.
It's a high-rye. I mean, it's clearly a high-rye bourbon, but it's
But how often do you get a almost 12-year pot still bourbon?
Right.
Not even sure I've had one before.
It retailed for $200, so that included the tax for whatever that's worth. So it's not, not a cheap bottle, but I find it very tasty. And
yeah, it's very good.
I'll get another one next year because it'll probably come. They're blending these barrels and proofing them down to 110, but
because it's pot still, it's still got a lot of body and richness to it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the interesting thing about this, I would love to put it in a blind and let people guess its age, because so many people will say pot still bourbon. They always just say it's young. They don't say it's pot still. They just say it tastes young.
Yeah.
And this has that character, and it's almost 12 years old, which just shows that that's what pot still bourbons.
That's what it does.
Taste like. You get a carryover of flavors that you don't get from a gigantic column still. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with it. They're two very different flavor profiles, and they can't be judged against each other.
They're just different, right?
Yeah,
and yeah.
So it's very good, and I don't think I've had a pot still this old ever.
I'm not sure I have either. So anyway,
very cool.
And
making my 11 o'clock Friday morning be better than I had planned.
Not readily available, but if you can find a way to get to Maysville, maybe you can find a bottle. So
yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Next, the 2025 Heaven Hill Grain to Glass Specialty Barrel Series inaugural release includes 3 6-year-old whiskeys aged in Chinkapin oak barrels, a Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey and Kentucky Straight Wheated Bourbon Whiskey, both bottled at 105 proof, and a Kentucky Straight Rye Whiskey bottled at 100 proof. Each was barreled at 107 proof, similar to the Grain to Glass in general, and is bottled non-chill filtered. These whiskeys are an extension of Heaven Hill's Grain to Glass line, which is crafted from locally grown grain, a unique Beck's corn hybrid, and mash bills that set them apart from Heaven Hill's flagship whiskeys. Bottles will be available nationally beginning in November 2025, and as of very recently, they've been available at the Heaven Hill visitor experiences. The thing is, it's a little confusing. I think the flight is offered in one place and the bottles are offered in another between the Bourbon Experience and the Heaven Hill Springs. So I think that could all change. So if you're interested in buying them, I would call before you go.
Just motor over there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, price is $129.99.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Per bottle. So that's fair. It's interesting, and we talked about it a little bit at the beginning, how you think it affected the taste and all that. So this is, to me, a good example of, one, experimentation, and two, some of the partnerships. So the partnership with the local farmers with the corn variety, but also it's an independent stave barrel product. And, you got to work closely with your barrel makers when you're doing this. Heaven Hill tends to hit on all cylinders when it does this stuff. It's created some wonderful partnerships, and can't say enough good things about them. And looking forward to trying this product sooner rather than later.
Yeah, it's and I thought I didn't even know these were coming, and it was maybe 3 years ago that they did the select stock Chinkapin bourbons and ryes.
Yeah,
and I like those very much. I mean, they were different. I think they were the regular bourbon and rye mash bills, but they were fairly old, as I recall, and they were aged in the Chinkapin oak right from the start. So this is entirely different because they're different mash bills and different barrel entry proofs and everything. But Heaven Hill has done Chinkapin in the past, and offhand, I don't know if it's been in anything else, but they've released so many things, it's hard to believe that it wouldn't have been in something along the line. But yes, I like this experimental, and I mean, I was almost wondering if these are sort of replacing select stock, if these are going to now have their...
That's an interesting concept. Yeah, maybe they will. Because they are somewhat different mash bills, right? I mean,
they're very different mash bills.
63% rye on the rye, which is, different. And so, it's a lot of experimentation going on. And we love to see that. So
yeah, nice. Very cool. All right, moving on. Who would have thought I'd use this word twice in one podcast? But Happenstance Whiskey, Nashville's 100% women-owned and women-led whiskey company, has unveiled its first portfolio expansion with the release of Happenstance Single Barrel Bourbon. Following the brand's award-winning Founders Edition, this 9-year-old straight bourbon is distilled in Kentucky and bottled at 110 proof. The limited edition release will be available for around $90 at select retailers, bars, and restaurants in Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and Texas, as well as online with nationwide shipping. You familiar with?
I am. No, I was going to say I'm not familiar with Happenstance. Where are they physically operating? If you know.
Well, it says it's Nashville's.
Well, there you go. See, I skimmed right past that. So, yeah.
So I'm going to go with Nashville.
Yeah. Okay. I'll go with that too. So we'll have to visit. I haven't visited that. You've been to Nashville. Have you ever been to their facility? I don't even know if they have it open,
I don't
open
know
to the public. Right?
either,
They're maybe not public facing. So.
No, I was not familiar with them, and I did not try their, or was even real. I feel like I've heard the name, but that's about it. I've not tried that original Founders Edition.
Well, and good that they're expanding their product line. You know, it's a tough market to be expanding a product line in, but let's hope it works for them. And, you know, single barrels tend to, at least historically, do well. So,
well, I thought their pricing was actually sort of interesting because the Founders Edition, which is, I think it's 4 to 5 years or something,
okay.
and it's under 100 proof, and it was priced around $50. But the 110 proof 9-year-old is priced around $90, which is a reasonable price for it, whereas the other one's a little bit high. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. I'll keep an eye out for that one on the shelves. So. Except it's not going to be distributed in Kentucky.
Yeah, it's not on our shelves.
I'll keep an eye out on the online shelves.
When you're passing through Tennessee, which is not far.
No, it's not. It's not. Yeah.
All right. Our next one is the James B. Beam Distilling Company has released Old Overholt Extra Aged Cask Strength 12-Year Rye, a limited edition unfiltered Kentucky-style rye whiskey. Distilled and barreled in the spring of 2013, it was aged 12 years across 4 warehouses in Claremont, Kentucky. Bottled at cask strength ranging from 53 to 65% ABV, so up to 130
106 to 130, right?
Yeah. And priced at $109.99, so around $110 for a 750 milliliter bottle. This release marks the oldest expression in the Old Overholt Extra Age Cask Strength series to date, following previous 10 and 12-year-old editions. And I had no idea this was coming either. And what's unusual is that they're usually released at the distillery like a month or two before the press releases ever come out. This is one of the first times that the press release has come out before
the juice. Yeah,
and I mean it could be at the distillery. I don't know.
I've been there in the last month, I think, and I wasn't there then because I've got the 10-year and the 11-year, so I'm going to have to find a bottle of the 12-year, right? And I'll probably just go to the distillery and get it. But
I was there 2 weeks ago. I think not even.
Wasn't there? So,
no.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't know that this. I assume it sells out, but I don't think it's such a limited run that they sell out all that quickly.
No, because the 11 years still been there.
Yeah. So right. I like the product. I like their Old Overholt, and cask strength was really good. So I wonder how much of they have laid back and how many years we're going to get. Are we going to end up with a 15-year?
Well, I don't know. It looks like it keeps going.
It does, and to your point, that's old for a rye. See and if it's cask strength, which it clearly is, they're not proofing it down. There's a chance there you're going to get some off flavors, at least for some people, because of the age and the heat behind it. So
so I had to refresh my memory about this, but when they came out with an 11-year, for as far as I know, the first time, it was a number of years ago, and it was only or was it Ohio and Pennsylvania, or Pennsylvania and Maryland? It was only released in 2 states, which was odd. I think maybe it was Ohio and Pennsylvania. And so we went to Pennsylvania to get it, and I was actually drinking some of that the other day before this press release came out, coincidentally. But that, I believe, was only 90 proof or 90-something proof.
Okay.
So the barrel strengths, I know there was a barrel strength that came out roughly the same time, but I believe it was younger. I want to say it was 114 proof, but I could be making things up.
Because they have a 114 proof product.
Yeah.
Right, a regular product. So, yeah.
But
they put out that Monongahela rye too, but that was available nationally, not just in a couple states.
And that's a different
mash product. Yeah.
So yes. So these 10, 11, and 12, that would certainly suggest it's going to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. And a pretty stout proof point. So, more bang for your buck.
Yeah. No.
That's a fair price too. $100 for
especially for the 130 proof one. I mean, that's a pretty big range.
Yeah.
All right, so next is Russell's Reserve introduces the fourth release in their single rickhouse collection, Camp Nelson E, aged in one of the distillery's coolest rickhouse environments. Built in 1946 and located near the Kentucky River, Camp Nelson E offers shade, airflow, and a unique microclimate. Master distiller Eddie Russell selected barrels exclusively from the fifth floor, known for slow, nuanced aging. The 2025 release is bottled at 128 proof, the highest for any Russell's Reserve bottling, and it's non-chill filtered. It says now available in select U.S. markets and at the Wild Turkey Visitor Center. That's according to the press release, but I have not heard anything or seen this. For $300 for a 750 milliliter bottle. It's also going to be featured as part of a special vertical tasting of the single rickhouse collection, which would be pretty cool, on October 27, 2025, hosted by Associate Master Blender Bruce Russell. But if anybody's even aware when those tickets go on sale, I believe they're going to disappear within seconds.
Right, yeah, I would love to do that. If I'm not mistaken, that's on Monday night, but hey, sometimes you have to sacrifice when you can do a vertical of some single rickhouse wild turkey.
Yeah, that'd be very cool tasting to taste the difference between them.
No kidding.
Yeah,
and this is a neat. This is going to be aged so differently than a lot of their other products based on where it was. Just a cooler rickhouse, shaded, all that kind of stuff. To your point earlier about Maker's Mark and how the cellar aged is aged in the cellar versus a regular. If you're not aged in the cellar, this is sort of the flip of that, right? Here's something that's in the cooler, shaded rickhouse up on the fifth floor. So, I'd love to see what that does to the Russell's Reserve.
I thought it was interesting how they said the fifth floor was cooler. I mean, obviously it would seem like the first floor, but maybe it's the airflow in there and the way it gets the breeze.
I mean, it's apparently a dirt floor in that particular rickhouse. And so, who knows? I can't imagine it's warmer on the first or second level, but certainly much cooler than some of their other, rickhouses that aren't shaded, that aren't, getting that airflow. Apparently this is close enough to the river, the Kentucky River, that it's helping generate more airflow through there.
I was trying to picture where that one is. They're basically on the hill across the street from the Camp Nelson Cemetery. Yeah. And most of them are exposed, but I didn't think that field of rickhouses went all the way down to the water.
I don't know either, but this one apparently is not exposed, and maybe it's not down by the water, but if you go down the hill a little bit, different microclimate. And, a lot of things, microclimates change what happens to bourbon. So.
Yeah. No, definitely. I'd like to try it. I'd love to do the vertical tasting.
Yeah.
Keep an eye out for tickets. I wonder if they come with bottles of each.
That would
be fairly expensive.
Yeah.
All right. So next, Frey Ranch is launching its first ever malted 4-grain single barrel bourbons in 750 milliliter bottles, alongside the return of its OG 365 milliliter expression malted 4-grain bourbon batch number 3, which was formerly known as Quad Malt. I had to read this multiple times to get this. It's fairly confusing. But so they're all 4 grain. It's just originally it had a different name and only came in 375s. Mm-hmm. So both use the same mash bill as the flagship 4-grain straight bourbon, with all 4 grains, corn, rye, wheat, and barley, malted on-site using Colby Frey's custom-made malt drum. 2 barrels, $30.41 and $5.99, will be available online beginning, again, if you got the newsletter, it's today at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Unfortunately for the podcast, this is October 17th that we're recording, so they will probably be gone, but you never know. With a 3rd barrel, 3043, released in the Frey Ranch tasting room on Saturday, October 18th.
There's your chance, folks.
Well,
although even that's before the podcast.
Before the podcast, But the newsletter people get a good jump
on top of it.
Yeah. Subscribe to everything I have.
It's money free, folks. It's money free.
It is. The 750 milliliter single barrels are bottled at 131.06 to 133.13 proof and range in age from 6 years 3 months to 8 years 9 months for $114. while the 375 milliliter batch 3 is priced at $59. And it didn't specifically say the proof of that, but I think the prior quad malts were significantly lower. I think around 90 or something like that.
That would make sense, right?
So that would explain that.
I mean, Frey Ranch
they're
creating a great name for themselves. They're one of the original grain to glass. They do it right, and hopefully they keep on laying back more so that over time, there's more of their product available and more readily available. But if you can run across this, you should get it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can actually get these online.
Yeah.
Which,
maybe.
Because otherwise they don't sell here.
Right.
Yeah.
10 a.m. PT. Let's see. That's we
got plenty of time.
We got 45 minutes. We can.
Sure. All right. So we went through these last week, but since this is our new releases, we will just run through them again. So Buffalo Trace unveiled this year's 2025 Buffalo Trace Antique Collection, BTAC, celebrating its 25th release and introducing E.H. Taylor Bottled and Bond as a new permanent edition alongside its 5 legacy expressions. All bottles carry a suggested retail price of $149.99, so $150. They can't get rid of the penny soon enough.
No, exactly. Yeah.
So the 2025 expressions include E.H. Taylor Bottled and Bond Bourbon, aged 15 years, 4 months, and bottled at 100 proof. Eagle Rare 17-year-old bourbon, aged 18 years, 4 months, bottled at 101 proof. George T. Stagg Bourbon, aged more than 15 years, 4 months, bottled at 142.8 proof. Sazerac 18-year-old Rye, aged 18 years, 5 months, bottled at 90 proof. Thomas H. Handy Rye, aged over 6 years and bottled at 129.8 proof. And William LaRue Weller Bourbon, aged 14 plus years and bottled at 129 proof. And this edition of the Taylor is the first new addition to BTAC in nearly 2 decades, and the first time an E.H. Taylor has been permanently included.
Well, there's been a lot of press about that. My mouth is watering over that Stag at 142 proof, and the actually the William LaRue Weller, 14 years at almost 130. That's bound to be tasty also. So.
Yeah, I mean, the Stags are usually my favorite.
It seems to be everybody's favorite. They're the go-to. But, none of these are going to be bad bourbons, let's be honest. So,
especially because 2 of them are ryes.
Right.
So, yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, not sure we're going to have the opportunity to try all of these. Maybe we'll get to try some of them somewhere along the line.
Yeah, you're looking at a cool $1,000 if you could find them all and get them all. So, not that it's not worth it, but it's an investment. So,
well, if you can find them at retail price, that's
right. Yeah. Good luck.
Take a lot. Yeah. All right. So, this last one just appeared in a Facebook page late yesterday. So we'll include it. So, Prohibition Craft Spirits, which is the team behind what most people know as Nulu Whiskey, has announced the launch of Hazelbaker, which is their family last name, high-proof 7-year Kentucky straight bourbon, a single barrel. I believe it is because there was another. This is all just from a Facebook, so it's not like press release. But there was a prior release that referred to what I think is this bourbon and said they were single barrels. So I think they're single barrels. Mash bill of 78% corn, 10% rye, and 12% malted barley. And this bourbon was aged for over 7 years in char 3 barrels, first spending more than 6 years on the 5th or 6th floor of a rick house, presumably at the distillery where it was distilled, before undergoing heat cycling in Prohibition Spirits' own warehouse where it was aged to its maturity. Bottled at cask strength, which is typically above 130 proof, but it's going to vary, of course, because they're presumably single barrels. The bourbon will reportedly retail for around $75 and makes its debut, today for newsletter. I feel like a broken record, but they all are coincidentally being released the same day that the newsletter came out, Friday, October 17th. But this will be around, I don't think, and it will be going to stores as well. So
yeah. That's a great price point for a single barrel in that proof.
Yeah.
And that age, right? I mean, that's a deal.
Yeah.
So I look forward to trying this. I've heard the Hazelbaker name before, and I didn't really associate it with the Nulu and the Prohibition spirits, so I'm glad you drew that connection for me.
Well, it went on their 2 bottled in bonds that had come out over the last, I lose track of time, but it's not more than 2 years those have been around.
Okay.
So, so interesting.
Yeah, that's neat, yeah. A recent find from Facebook, so you got to scour all the sources for this stuff, folks, and it does, trust me. So,
but I'm not over scouring because we already have too many on our.
We do.
Quite a few on the list.
Right.
All right. So, anything to add?
No, I think it's been a wonderful week. Looking forward to the next week and seeing what it brings, and we'll be back in a week or so with distillery news, right? So,
we will.
Yeah.
All right, so that about does it for this episode. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of the Bourbon Obsessed New Bourbon Releases News Podcast, your commercial-free and therefore money-free bourbon podcast. Please be sure to join us next Monday for our Bourbon and Distillery News podcast. I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about. Also, be sure to like and follow us at your preferred podcast provider so that you don't miss an episode. And don't forget to tell all your friends, too. You can also head over to bourbonobsessed.com to check out some of our over 350 bourbon reviews and over 50 distillery write-ups. While you are there, you can also sign up to have my newsletters delivered directly to your inbox. Finally, I can be found on Instagram at bourbon_obsessed and on Facebook at Bourbon Obsessed, and would love for you to follow me there as well. Dean, where can they find you?
People can find me on Instagram at Dean of Bourbon with underscores, and there's not a lot of content there, but I keep trying to add to it, and love to have people interact with me there.
Sounds good. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Cheers.
Cheers.